Hello friends, we are back with our new video. In this video, I will discuss how to obtain terrain information over a geographical domain using the High Resolution Elevation Database of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration (NOAA), along with processing the raw data using the raster package in R. And finally, we discuss how to draw spatial maps using ggplot2 that you can use for your official presentation or in your publication. If you already have the spatial dataset at hand, you can skip the first part and move to the second part. First, we discuss how to obtain terrain information over the study domain. We obtain the elevation data at a spatial resolution of 1 minute by 1 minute from NOAA website. The link of this website is provided in the video description. There are different ways to obtain the data. If you want the whole dataset across the world, you can click on the link ETOP01 ice surface. Two options are available. Either you can download it as a netcdf file or as a TIFF image. Here in this video, we assume our study domain is Sri Lanka. So we do not want to download the whole data unnecessarily. To do that, click on the link at the bottom, Custom Grids to Grid Extraction Tool. Once you click on that link, now you can choose a database you want to use. Here we consider the first one, ice. This means the elevation above the top of Antarctic and Greenland ice sheets. To study the difference, you can download the second dataset, that is the elevation above the base of the Antarctic and Greenland ice sheets. Next, once you have selected the dataset, scroll through the map and focus on Sri Lanka by zooming in. Note that there is an option near the top left corner to draw a rectangle over the study domain. Click on that first, it will become red. Then draw a rectangle over Sri Lanka. Particularly for the non-island countries, it is not possible to select a country without allowing portions of some other country. So, for a generalized discussion, deliberately we select some portion of India as well. Now, once you click on the download data, a TIFF image will be downloaded in your computer with the file name exportImage.tiff. Now we do not need the website anymore, and the data downloaded as the TIFF image can be processed using the raster package in R. First, we install the package raster using the function install.packages and then call the package using the function library. Then we read the TIFF image using the function raster and store the data into SL. Once we run these codes, a raster layer object SL will be created. Next, let us check the details of SL. The class is raster layer. The dimension gives the number of rows, that is the different values of latitude, 243 here, and the number of columns, that is the different values of longitude, 182 here. Overall, the data is available at 44,226 pixels. Next, the spatial resolution is given. We can see that the spatial resolution is 1 minute by 1 minute. Next, the extent of the rectangle is provided, that is the ranges of the longitudes and the latitudes. Next, we create a grid of longitude-latitude pairs of the data locations. The values of longitudes are given by a sequence starting with xmin, ending with xmax, and the length of the grid is 182, the number of columns. Next, the values of latitudes are given by a sequence starting with ymin, ending with ymax, and the length of the grid is 243, the number of rows. Also, note that we create the grid in the descending order. This is important, otherwise the image will be flipped. Next, using the function expand.grid, we create the coordinates from the sets of longitudes and latitudes and store them into the matrix locks. Each row of locks represents a longitude-latitude pair. Next, remember that the rectangle covers Sri Lanka, but it includes a big region of the Indian Ocean and also some pixels covering India. So we need to select only the pixels that cover Sri Lanka. To do that, we need the function maps.here from the package maps. So first we need to install and call the package maps into R. Similar to the package raster, we install and call the package maps using the functions install.packages and library. Next, we create the vector geolocks that represents the position of a pixel within a country. The first argument should be world within quotes. The second argument should be the longitudes and the third argument should be the latitudes. Next, let us check the details of the vector geolocks. It is of length 44,226, same as the number of pixels we selected by drawing the rectangle. And except NS, it includes 4 values: India for 31 pixels, 19,181 pixels for the mainland Sri Lanka, 21 and 22 pixels respectively for the 2 small islands Jaffna and Mannar. So total 19,224 cases for Sri Lanka. Next, we create a vector keep.cases. It includes the cases within the vector geolocks where a pixel corresponds to either mainland Sri Lanka, Jaffna or Mannar. So we want to keep only these cases and discard the rest. First, we extract the elevation data from the raster layer SL and store into sl.eliv. Note that first we convert SL into a matrix by the function as.matrix, then transpose and then vectorize to obtain the final vector. This vector sl.eliv would be of length 44,226, the number of pixels in the initially selected rectangle. Then we filter the rows of the matrix locks, the coordinates and the vector sl.eliv to keep only the pixels representing Sri Lanka. Once we run these codes, the matrix locks would consist of 19,224 rows and the vector sl.eliv would consist of 19,224 elements. Next, along with elevation, other terrain variables like slope and aspect also explain the topography of a spatial region. So we can obtain them from the raster layer SL using the function terrain from the package raster. We can select the unit of slope and aspect. Can be in radians or degrees. We select degrees. Further, we obtain the vectors sl.slope and sl.aspect similar to the way we obtained sl.eliv from SL. So we are done. Let us just look at the final dataset. We combine the logs sl.elif, sl.slope and sl.aspect across the columns, rename the columns and show the head portion. We can use this data for spatial statistical analysis, for example as covariates, when terrain information plays an important role. For example, when we analyze, say, temperature data, rainfall data, or wind speed, etc. We are done with the first part of today's discussion. Next, let's look at how to plot this spatial data using ggplot2. From the first part, we have logs, the coordinates, and sl.elif, sl.slope and sl.aspect, three terrain variables. Because the scenario is similar to the case where you have some coordinates in 2D and you have a variable to plot at each coordinate, we advise to watch our video how to draw a bivariate continuous function in R using ggplot2. Our discussion will be quite similar to this one, which is a generic tutorial for any function, not just for some spatial geographical data at some latitudes and longitudes. Let's move on. First, we install and call the package ggplot2 similar to the packages raster and maps. Okay, now we are ready to proceed with our first spatial map. We will describe the steps for elevation for the time being. Later, we will replicate them to create maps for slope and aspect. In the console window, type ggplot a blank bracket plus geom_tile within aesthetics x equals to the first column of logs, y equals to the second column of logs, and fill equals to sl.elif. Now press enter. Okay, you get your first elevation map. There are many things to change. Let's do step by step. First, the map is badly flattened along the longitudes, and hence the ratio of the ranges of the coordinates should be the range of the longitudes divided by the range of the latitudes. That is, each pixel should be a square. The plot doesn't automatically select this aspect ratio. To fix this, at the line coord fixed ratio equals to 1. Now press enter. Okay, you get your second elevation map. Now each pixel is printed like a square. Next, note that there are many horizontal and vertical lines visible within the plot, and the actual coordinates just appear as separated pixels. To fix this within geom_tile outside aesthetics, add width equals to a number slightly larger than the resolution of the data, that is 1 minute, and show 1/60 degree. For example, we choose 1.1 by 60. Also set height equals to 1.1 by 60. This makes the tiles slightly larger both in height and width so that the gaps are no more visible. Now press enter. Okay, you get your third elevation map. The plot looks very smooth now. The horizontal and the vertical lines are no more visible. Next, note that the axis titles are just the columns of logs. Suppose you want to change the x-axis label to longitude and the y-axis label to latitude. To do that, add the line xlab longitude within quotes plus ylab latitude within quotes. Now press enter. Okay, you get your fourth elevation map. You can see that the axis titles have changed. Next, suppose you want to add a title elevation at the top center and also want to allow large font sizes for plot title, axis titles and axis texts. To do that, add ggtitle within brackets elevation within quotes. This adds the title. Next, within theme, set plot.title equals to element text h just equals to 0.5. This places the title at the center. Size equals to 25. This enlarges the font size of the title. Further, axis.text equals to element text size equals to 20. This enlarges the font size of the latitude-longitude values on the axis. And axis.title equals to element text size equals to 20. This enlarges the font size of the axis titles. Also, note that we are storing everything so far into P0 for convenience, and we'll add the subsequent layers on the top of P0. Now press enter. Okay, you get your fifth elevation map. You can see that the figure title is created now and also it is at the top center. Also, you can see that the titles and the axis texts are larger now. Next, note that the colors vary between dark blue through white and the intermediate levels are not very clearly distinguishable, particularly due to very high altitude variation in a small region at the center, and the rest of Sri Lanka is pretty flat. To fix this, you might consider to use the rainbow color palette. This palette allows visualizing small-scale variations to large-scale variations, and hence helpful to identify fine spatial patterns. To do that, first we need to install and call the package rpmg. Then add the line scale fill gradient n within brackets colors equals to rainbow.colors within brackets say 30. Here the argument of rainbow.colors allows us to choose how many colors we want to use. Now press enter. Okay, you get your sixth elevation map. You can see that the colors are replaced by the rainbow palette. Note that the small-scale variations in the coastal regions where the colors vary between red and yellow, previously they were not distinguishable. Next, let's focus on the legend. The title is just the name of the vector sl.elif, and also it is small. So you might be interested to change this title along with enlarging it. Also, the numbers 0, 500, 1000 and so on the legend are very small, and you might want to enlarge them. Besides, the legend key is very small relative to the figure, and small scale variations in colors may be difficult to identify unless the legend key is large. Suppose you want to change the legend title to elevation in meters. To do this, first within the function scale fill gradient n, add name equals to elevation in meters within quotes. This adds the legend title. Then within theme, legend.key.size equals to unit 0.5, inch within quotes. This enlarges the legend key, that is the colored box. Legend.text equals to element text size equals to 18, this enlarges the numbers on the legend, and legend.title equals to element text, size equals to 18, this enlarges the legend title. Also note that we are storing everything so far into P1 for convenience, and we'll add the subsequent layers on the top of P1. Now press enter. Okay, you get your 7th elevation map. You can see the changes you wanted. The title and the text of the legend are large, legend key is large, and the legend title has changed. Next, you might want to overlay the geographical boundary of Sri Lanka over the map. To do that, first we collect the country boundaries using the function map_data and store into base data. Then within geom polygon, data equals to base data. Within aesthetics, x equals to long, y equals to lat, group equals to group. Note that these variable names are predefined within the package ggplot2 and so should not be renamed. Outside aesthetics, color equals to black, the color you pick for the boundary. Alpha equals to 0. If this is 1, the plot will be gray, and if this is in between 0 and 1, the colors will be faded. This creates a combination of the present colors and the gray color. So the proportion of gray should be 0. Size equals to 0.5. This determines the width of the boundary line and so should not be too large or too small. Plus quad fixed xlim equals to range of longitudes of the study domain, ylim equals to range of longitudes of the study domain. If we do not set this quad fixed, a whole world map will be created. Now press enter. Okay, you get your final elevation map. You might consider this plot for your presentation or in your publication. Next, we just repeat the similar procedure to create the spatial maps for slope and aspect. Also, you might think of writing a function where the geographical coordinates and the variable of interest would be the inputs and the maps would be the outputs. A pseudocode would be like this. Here we consider the locations and the variable of interest to be inputs. The variable can be elevation, slope or aspect. Also we can consider the main figure title and the legend title as inputs and write the discussed steps within the function and get the final ggplot as the output. Further, just call this function 3 times to get the 3 spatial maps for elevation, slope and aspect. Okay, finally we have all the spatial maps ready. We can now study the topographic variation quite properly from these maps. If you found this video helpful, please like, comment, share and subscribe to my channel and press on the bell icon for more updates.